Hi there. Welcome to our second installment of knitting socks in the round, toe up, two at a time. Today we're going to be talking about doing the gusset stitches. That's right here, these stitches in this triangle. So a gusset, what the heck is it? The gusset is extra fabric, and in this case it spans the gap between the heel flap and the instep of the sock. And these extra bits of fabric are included on both sides of the instep and both sides of the heel. Okay, and they are usually grouped with the sole stitches, the bottom of the sock. How do you know when to start your gusset? Well, you know when to start your gusset if your pattern tells you. Sometimes your pattern will say, begin your gusset X inches from the toe, the cast on at the toe. Sometimes it'll say start your gussets about 3 inches from the heel of your sock. So I prefer it if they give the instructions this way. But if you're making it up yourself, you can also, I stole this idea, make a template of your feet. I recommend doing both of your feet if your feet are not exactly the same. And you can slide this into your partly knit sock to see when it's going to be time to add those stitches. So although in this one, it's longer than 3 inches between here and here, but it works out. So you can see that I would probably start my socks, if I were using this two-dimensional template, I would start them closer to actually 3 inches from the end. And then where do you knit them on the sock? So you knit them between the instep. This is the instep, remember our markers at the beginning of the round, and the sole of the sock. So you knit them right in between. And we also place markers on each side of the sole of the sock. Now, you might be tempted to think that's where the increases go, but they don't. This is just to tell you, it's a quick reference on how many gusset stitches you've knit already. So the gussets actually get knit between the instep and the sole, not at the markers. So I've already knit, you can see 3 on each side of each foot. So it's important to remember that the gussets are knit still in the round. When you get to the doing the heel flap, at turning the heel, then you knit flat. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And when you do your increases, you usually knit one round with an increase in it, and then you do a resting or a plain or an in pattern round of knitting. And later on, we'll talk about how you know what that is. So you can do any number of increases for these gussets. I like to use make one left and make one right, just so that it has this nice slant to it. So on the right side of the sock, we do a make one right so that it leans to the right. And on the left, we do a make one left. And again, my sock mentor, Kate Atherley, she has a mnemonic to help me remember. I can use all of those that I can get. When I do a make one right, it's my BFF, my best friend forever. Okay, and what that means is when I do a make one right, I enter the strand. We use the strand between the 2 stitches to make this stitch. I enter from the back to the front, and then I knit through the front loop. Okay. And you see me using my right hand needle, and I use my right hand needle to manipulate to help get that the bar up on the left needle. I find that can be tricky sometimes to do. So that's all there is to it for a make one right. and we knit across. And if I figure out my editing tools appropriately, this will be a fast forwarded section. The left edge of the sock. And so make one left, leans the other direction. And there's no mnemonic for this one. But what we do is go from the front to the back and knit through the back loop. Okay, so make one right is my back, front, front, my BFF. Make one left is the opposite. And here we go. And we would just repeat the process for the left sock, or this was actually the first sock that you knit. And again, we keep the needle tips point to point, parallel, and in front of the cable. And this is where we start. And you can see that in the row below, or well below, you can see this is the little crisscross. That is where we picked up the yarn for the previous increase. And then this was the stitch that we knit through the front loop. And then this was the resting row. So that's how you know where you are. You know that it's time to do another increase. So my left needle tip goes from the back to the front. And I find this can be kind of fiddly, so I use my index finger of my left hand to press the cable and the yarn towards me. And I knit through the front loop. And then I work my way across. You probably hear my dogs tippy-toeing around. Okay, and tempting as it may be, do not put your increase next to the stitch marker. Last stitch, make one left. I go from the front to the back. Look at all that slop. Ooh! And knit through the back loop. Shoop! And then the same as you've been doing all along. You can hold on to that one you just finished. Pull the opposite side up onto the needles. Turn it 180 degrees. And off you go. Now this will be a resting row. So that just means you work whatever slack pattern it is on the instep. And then you just work plain knitting on the back. And you can tell when you get up to the plain knitting that it's a resting row because the bar between the stitches has been yanked up and crossed. And then another stitch knitted through it. Okay, so that's how you know you have a resting row. Another question we get sometimes is, well, my pattern doesn't tell me how many stitches I'm supposed to put in my gusset. How do I know? So I'll draw a little formula for you out here. It's easier to see. The gusset, the total of the gusset ought to be about 10 to 15% of the entire. 15% of that is 1.2. So the whole circumference is going to be 9.2. So how many stitches are in that extra 1.2 inches? Take your stitch gauge, multiply, so that maybe 8 stitches an inch, multiplied by 1.2, and then on you go. Okay. If there are any more questions, obviously put them down in the comments below. put them in our Ravelry group, and I am just amazed to see the progress that y'all are making. Don't forget to take pictures and fill out your sock journals. Okay? All right, everybody. Good chatting with you, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.